Welcome to Up to So Good, the podcast that unlocks the secrets of creating a purpose-driven business so we can all make this world a better place. Come join the conversation.
Hi there, and welcome to Up to So Good, the podcast that explores the purpose of business. I am Deborah, the podcast producer, and I'm just subbing in for Lena to introduce this next episode as she's away far corners of the globe filming media content for some of our corporate clients. And welcome to Season 3. If you have joined us for Season 1 and 2, we thank you, and we hope you'll be just as inspired by Season 3, and we so appreciate our listenership. Our first episode of Season 3, we speak with Sarah Payne. She is Senior Director of Impact and Operations at the UnTours Foundation. Sarah shares the inspiring story of Hal Tasic. He was the founder of UnTours, which is a really unique travel company. It allowed people to travel and connect with communities and live like locals. In 1992, he founded the UnTours Foundation, where he channeled all the profits from the UnTours travel company to support mission-driven entrepreneurs tackling poverty and social injustice. In 2007, UnTours became the very first certified B Corporation, and Hal's legacy continues to shape the B Corp movement today. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to Up to So Good, the podcast that explores the purpose of business. I am with a very special guest, a very lovely friend of mine, Sarah Payne, within the UnTours family. And I had the pleasure of meeting Sarah a couple of years ago now. It's been almost 2 years. It has been, maybe a year and a half, at the giant B Corp sort of conference that was hosted in Vancouver. It feels like we've known each other forever. And you are part of such an incredible organization. So I'd love for you to describe UnTours and what it is you do and kind of like what started UnTours.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we have a pretty cool origin story, so I'm excited to share it. So UnTours is a travel company that was started in the 1970s by a guy named Hal Tasic. And he was an educator. He was formerly a cattle rancher. He was a really interesting guy that he was at the University of Pennsylvania. It came time to take his sabbatical, and so he traveled to Europe and really wanted to do it through this lens of traveling slowly and having authentic experiences and really being rooted in local communities and meeting the people and building connections. So all on a budget. So he published a book after called The Shoestring Sabbatical, and it led him to this idea of like wanting to offer that style of travel to other educators taking sabbatical. So we started this company, and what he found was he was actually attracting tourists, not necessarily educators. So he ran with it. It was now a travel company, and the concept really resonated. It was, putting up mostly Americans in short-term rentals in apartments across Europe. So this was obviously decades before Airbnb, and it was kind of a new and novel thing. So the company started doing well and making a lot of profits. But Hal, for religious reasons, had taken a vow of poverty before starting the business. So he didn't want to keep any of the profits for himself. Which is like a really unique thing to do, especially for an entrepreneur who like fully believed in the power of business, but just didn't want to keep that wealth personally for himself. So he tried a few ideas over the years and landed on creating the UnTours Foundation in the early 1990s and set it up as a way to receive 100% of the travel company's profits and then use those funds as basically a revolving investment fund. So this was around the time of Muhammad Yunus and microfinance, and Hal was really inspired by that to basically, provide capital in a way that was really generating economic opportunity in a very sort of equitable and like dignifying kind of way. So that was how the foundation started and how the travel company started. And the foundation was operating pretty quietly. Early supporters of the fair trade movement, lots of just social impact, place-based investing in our home community of Philadelphia and some of the underserved neighborhoods there. And then basically UnTours got on sort of the national radar because it was a really interesting model and won this award for being the most generous company in America. And that
Hmm.
caught the attention of some guys who were leaving their career in business and wanted to start something new. And that was the B Corp movement. So Hal got linked up with the co-founders of B Lab and really inspired them to get all these ideas about, the power of business when it's unleashed for good, what that can look like and what that can be. So we were actually then the world's first certified B Corporation. The travel company is still operating. We've expanded out of Europe and we're in Dominican Republic and Costa Rica, and we're launching in Kenya. And then the foundation has also grown. So we're now a team of 5, and in our work at the foundation, I sort of manage our investment portfolio, and we, on a daily basis, are meeting with entrepreneurs, looking for alignment with our different impact areas, like regenerative tourism and sustainability and equity and all of those kinds of things. And then providing capital, mostly in the form of affordable and accessible low interest loans. So all that what we do is about how can we use this vehicle that is business in a way to really positively impact humanity, impact the natural world, and just do good things. So I'm really, really fortunate to be doing this work. Yeah.
There is so much in what you just said. Like it is, I mean, for our viewers and our listeners, I just like there's a lot. We need to like unpack that slowly because we've got this oh my gosh, this travel enterprise that turns out to be super successful, and Hal
Mm-hmm.
Tasek, the genius behind it, takes a vow of poverty and doesn't take those profits. So that in and of itself is pretty beautiful and inspirational. And in fact, let's start with Hal. A little bit about him.
Mm.
Wasn't there a story where he like gave away his car and started to
Yes.
bike to? Can you tell
Yes.
us like what happened there with Hal?
There are so many good Hal stories, but this one
So
is
many.
he picked up a hitchhiker at one point, was talking to this guy and found out that he really had no way to get to work because he was not near any public transit lines. And Hal was like, "Just take my car, like you can have it." And he ended up then biking to work for the rest of his life, like well into his 80s. He was biking to work and did not have a car in the winter in Philadelphia. It made everyone very stressed, but that was who Hal was. He was just this incredibly genuine spirit. I mean, I didn't have the privilege of knowing him, but his legacy lives on in our co-CEO Elizabeth, who knew him really well, and yeah, he's just an incredible example, I think, of someone that knows who they are and what their values are, and just goes after them with everything that they have, right? Like someone who is just
Yeah.
so aligned that they do something that's really incredible and therefore, I think, therefore resonant, right? With people who also, want to be doing things in a good way and want to be going about the world and traveling in a way that's also aligned with who they are.
It's so beautiful because I think he might be one of the only examples that I know of that I've heard of. One of the most maybe famous examples, but one of the only ones I've ever heard of where he truly embraced a vow of poverty, but still made a super successful, financially profitable business at the same time,
Yeah.
and was not motivated in any way by greed. Like
Yeah.
this man is a saint. Hal Tassig should
Yeah.
be known as like an international figure. This guy is like the
I
Mother
know.
Teresa of the business world. That's who Hal Tassig is. Your founder of UnTours is. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's fair to say.
Great way
He's
to
the
put it.
Mother Teresa
Yeah.
of the corporate world. um, and
Yeah.
and then the next part of this story is interesting because so you take all these profits. It's like, what do you do with all these profits?
Hmm.
And he creates the foundation that invests in other companies trying to make an impact.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
As of now, so when Hal passed in 2016, he actually gave the company to the foundation. So we are now the sole
Okay.
shareholder. So even like in his final act of generosity was to just give away the company.
That is
So yeah,
incredible. So the
yeah,
foundation, the nonprofit then owns this profitable
yes,
arm of the B Corp.
yeah,
That is just, oh my God. I mean, imagine if all companies work that way, because the fact is that the purpose of the UnTours
hmm
family
hmm
is, one part of it, one could say the purpose is the travel company, but isn't it that no, the purpose is actually it's an impact company, right?
yeah,
I mean, what
yeah.
would you say the purpose of UnTours is?
It's a great question. Um, our mission is to unleash capital and radical kindness. which is a
Oh
very interesting,
my.
like on the
Wow.
one hand, it's like this like finance kind of thing, like unleashing
Right.
capital. And on the other hand, it's like, but it's a way that we do it that makes
Yeah.
it so unique and very sort of spirit led and motivated, or I'll say values driven, I guess. But I come to it with spirit, and a lot of our folks who work for us do. So yeah, I think it really is about how do you operationalize this kind of generosity and radical kindness, and what does that look like in the private sector?
Oh,
And it
it's so
actually, so
amazing.
yeah,
It's so
and it gets more
amazing.
interesting because when Hal started the foundation, he didn't want to just create another foundation. He actually resisted for a while of doing a foundation because it was sort of like, well, that's what everyone does. They like make a bunch of money and then they give a little bit to their foundation and go do good work. And he was like, I don't want to do that. So he started a foundation, but unlike most foundations in the United States, the vast majority, and I can only speak for the US, but 95% of a foundation's assets can be just invested to grow more wealth for that foundation.
Hmm.
Only 5% has to be used for grants and the mission activities of a foundation. So,
Really?
so
Oh
we
my
think
goodness.
foundation and we think, oh, everything that they're doing is like, they're out there giving away all their money. It's not the case. And that 5% can
Wow.
actually cover the foundation's overhead. And so there's been, in
Oh,
recent
that's
years, yeah,
terrible. That can really lead to so much corruption. I mean,
it
sorry,
can,
go ahead.
and the
Sorry,
other
yeah.
thing is that
That's
in recent years there have been some pretty big exposés of prominent foundations who it turns out with their 5% they're funding all the social impact and environmental conservation and all that stuff. The other 95% is invested in business as usual. So you can literally be giving grants to communities that are downstream of environmental harm and invested in the refineries that are causing that harm.
unbelievable.
It is
Wow.
such a broken paradigm of
Yeah.
foundations and of,
Yeah.
again, like kind of the dark side of philanthropy. And so we, again, since being founded, we practiced mission aligned investing. And Elizabeth, our co CEO, a lot of her work focuses on this kind of advocacy with other foundations because for a lot of
Hmm.
them, it's not malintended. Same thing with like the business world and shareholder primacy. There isn't necessarily like evil intent here. It's like, but it's just
Right.
how the system is. And when you
Yeah.
get into that system, you're like, okay, I have my new job as CEO or on the board of a foundation, and you're doing the paradigm that has been done. So it's not necessarily like malintent. So, a
Right.
lot of what Elizabeth does is we do these know what you own reports for foundations so they can look into their holdings and drill down and see, are we actually invested in things that are counter to our mission? So that's sort of like, it's like a whole nother kind of layer of impact of, what the UnTours Foundation and UnTours does, is like spreading this model and showing it is possible to align all of your assets with your mission, directly investing into other companies, for example, rather than in Wall Street, and creating both impact and sustaining yourself financially while doing it. So that's
That
very
is
much all
amazing.
the message that we want to
Yeah.
get out in the world.
Wow. So it also sounds like the way that the foundation was created it's deeply intentional and very conscious and different from the way many other foundations are created and operation like operationally it's very different. And I love what you said that it might not have been and it isn't necessarily malintent. It's just the way that the system is set up. And it seems like so many of the ills in our society, so much is because of these systems that are set up that really reward greed
Yeah.
and don't do anything to reward impact. That you have to basically be somebody who is self motivated the way Hal was
Hmm.
to really promote any kind of goodness in this world. And that's there's something so wrong about that.
Yeah, it's these
You know?
unintended consequences of right these economic structures that we set up, and because in some ways, business itself is not inherently evil. I think growing up, and I was pretty radical. I was like, oh, I don't like business at all. Like I don't like capitalism, all this stuff.
Right.
But we're always going to have economic exchange, like the creation of profit, the creation of value, and of
Mm,
selling things of value for profit is
mm,
not evil, right? That's like the whole point. Like social enterprise is like you can be solving problems and making money to sustain yourself so you can keep solving these problems for people, whether that's environmentally, socially, economically. So yeah, I mean, I think it is really tough in this system to then try to come in later and tweak it, right? I mean, so the B Corp movement, speaks to that a bit. Benefit corporation
Hmm.
legislation. If you're a B Corp, you're legally accountable to your stakeholders, and not just to creating value for your shareholders. But that it's still like requires a little bit of like, but the executive or the owner needs to have opted into that. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I think the system as it is concentrating wealth, concentrating capital in a way that is like obviously very unhealthy. And I think the interesting thing is we're now seeing that it's a bad business case to do that too, because when you're
Hmm.
sucking all this money up into the top of the funnel, well then your employees like aren't making what they should be, or they're not excited to come to work, and
Yeah.
then you're actually externalizing your costs on the environment, which is not good for business because we all need air to breathe for business to run, and clean water and all these things. So we're realizing, this is what actually can drive profitability. However,
Hmm.
and so now, like the next layer is that, but as people realize that this can drive profitability, now they're trying to like shortcut. It's almost like spiritual bypassing, right? They're like, oh,
Oh
well, we're going to
yeah.
make really good jobs for people, but like the end goal is still profit. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of like I bang my head against a wall, metaphorically sometimes, because it's like, how do we change that? Because I think,
Hmm.
and we've, talked about this before, but at a certain point, you come down to what is happening spiritually in people and in our society that we don't question these things, that we don't have ways of conceptualizing value and what true wealth means in a way that is not concentrating money. And I
Agreed.
think some CEOs and founders really get it. We
Hmm.
have I'm here in San Diego, and we have some cool business leaders that they have like a group that goes out and surfs and like, like gets out into the world and into the environment. And I think when you do things like that, it also shows you like that what else is out here of value and that we need to preserve. And so I sometimes, yeah, I just wonder like, how do we get more people like out into nature, into communities, and like seeing these like frontline impacts, because we're also just so isolated sometimes, as leaders.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's like I
And
really see a lot of leadership challenges, and this is like
oh yeah.
where I think Hal and people like Hal are just like such a beacon of like what's
Oh
possible,
gosh,
right? Like,
yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also, I wonder if one of the answers, and I'd love to talk more about the spiritual thread as well, because I think we uncovered that when we interviewed a whole bunch of top
Hmm.
leaders in this field for the Hal Tasek Award. But before that, I wonder if part of it is also that, um, in general, when you think about a business, if they ask themselves what's their purpose,
Mm,
how do businesses answer that? Like with the UnTours family, within the UnTours
hmm.
umbrella, the foundation and the travel company, the purpose is really about expanding goodness, and as you said, radical kindness, and that really is the purpose. The purpose isn't just great travel. That's or
Yeah.
the purpose isn't just making profit, but for many businesses, that is their purpose. The purpose is profit. The purpose is sustaining their bottom line. The purpose is fattening up the CEO and the executives' paychecks. There's
Hmm.
no higher purpose. And I wonder, I hope that we get to a place in our evolution where it's unfortunate, to have to potentially maybe legislate these things. But what about a mindset shift? If people started thinking about their businesses from the place of like, what is the purpose of this business? And sometimes that purpose is going to align with what you actually do. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's not. And what you do is a means to attain that purpose. Like I look at someone like Ben and Jerry's. They're actually an activist company and they make
Hmm.
really good ice cream, but their purpose is beyond that. You look at Dr. Bronner's. You mentioned Dr. Bronner's. Beautiful, amazing company, but their purpose goes way beyond just making profit and making good soaps. They make good soaps too. you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like on the one level, the purpose of any business, I guess, is to generate money. But what's the why behind it? Like for us, like our
Hmm.
purpose isn't to put people on planes and get them to cool destinations. The purpose is connecting people with one another across cultural divides, to connect people with themselves, to connect people back to the earth. So yeah, it very much is motivated by those things. I think the challenge, and again, these are some like the failings I would say of capitalism, is like, well, that's not super easy to quantify, right? We can't
Yes.
measure that. Like, how do we put that on a P&L? How do we report that in our quarterly updates to our shareholders? And so, but like, it's like that's not the point. It's just completely not the point. And I think a lot of the companies that we invest in, um, really do have that purpose. Like we don't make investments into companies that don't have like a deep purpose, right? Every company that we support um, has begun and exists to try to solve an issue that we face. And that's where I get a lot of my, we're talking about all these like heavy, like systemic
Hmm.
challenges and barriers, but like in my day to day, I get to connect with people who are just, they chose the hard work of starting a business because it is hard, um,
Hmm.
as a way to create positive impact in the world, like in so many ways. I mean, I have literally our portfolio of investments is just like a litany of examples of these people. Like
Hmm.
I, for example, there's this company in Costa Rica that they upcycle Southwest Airlines seats into these really fashionable and awesome like bags and passport holders. And they do it by employing rural women in the community, providing them with great jobs and wraparound support. And now they're bringing in tourists to learn more about their model. Like, that is so
That's
cool.
amazing. Yes,
Yeah.
that is
Like, it's
amazing.
so cool.
Well, well, I think also, let's go back to even these spiritual
Mhm.
pieces. That was amazing. How so? Sarah and I, we did this video where we interviewed a number of people who were selected by
Yeah.
B Lab. Okay, B Lab selection committee of who would be given the Haltastic Award. So Hal, being this beautiful inspirational founder of UnTours, of your company, inspired so many other leaders, and B Lab was taking notice of these leaders that were doing business a little differently, that were really using their profits in a huge way for positive impact in the world, and in a way that was measurable. Like there was that one couple that we interviewed, and I believe, didn't they end up taking all their profits from selling shoes, and they bought the sustainable farm,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I believe, was that in Costa Rica or no? I can't remember
I think
where.
Belize, siltgrass.
Belize. We need
Yeah.
to connect with them again. Remember, they told us we can go to the
With
farm anytime that
everybody.
we
I
want. So
know.
we need
I
to we
know.
need to go to
Yeah.
Belize, hang out with them. But they were, I mean, first of all those conversations were so inspiring. Like these were really successful people, multi millionaires, who basically, I remember that couple because they said once they had enough to make sure that their lives were secure and their children were secure and everyone's, like comfortable and they have their retirements, they didn't need the other hundreds of millions of dollars. So then they
It was
took that
enough.
money and they said, what can we do? What can we do with this to make this world better? Okay, we can invest in Belize in their farming and allow and enabling a local farming and sustainable farming to protect Belize. Powerful, amazing. And again, very similar in some ways to Hal Tasig. They didn't take a vow of poverty. I got to say,
Mhm.
that's pretty amazing, Hal, and pretty
A
extreme. I
bit
don't think
radical.
I'm,
Yep.
yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know that I could do that, but I will say, it's so beautiful to the mindset of like, fine, get to a place where you feel secure and you feel comfortable. But then after that, all of that incredible money that you've made, the kind of good that that could do, leaning into
Yeah.
that, it is just such a beautiful model. And imagine where we would be if all the billionaires actually thought like that, as opposed to where we are
Yeah.
now, where billionaires, we struggle to get them to pay taxes. That's
And it's
that's
like, why? And it's something so
it's so
arbitrary. It's
disgusting.
like a
Yeah,
number.
they don't need
Why
lower
do you,
taxes.
yeah.
Billionaires don't need lower taxes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think too
Why?
of like, for example,
Greed.
like Danny from Small Giants, like he was someone that, through marriage, his partner came from a wealthy family and they inherited all this wealth. And he was like, I don't want this. Like, this does not feel good. It's like invested in all these wrong places. And so they actually kind of do a similar thing. They provide capital and support a bunch of cool organizations around the world. So like, this isn't to necessarily even demonize money or wealth, right? But I
Right,
do think
right.
that at a certain point, it's not good for us because it skews your perception of like what is the value there, like, because again, it's like I was saying, it's so arbitrary to just want to like hit, like the 1 billion in net worth. It's like, why? Like,
Right,
what does
right.
that mean to you? Like, is that
Yes,
really more valuable than having like a well-rounded life where you know that you're having an impact and like doing the most you can to like leave this world better off? I can't really comprehend it. But yeah, I mean, everyone that we interviewed for that award had some, really incredible story, of what they did with their business and what it enabled them to do. But yeah, as you were saying, it was like I think everybody at some point brought up like the why behind this is because, they framed it in different ways. But I think we both see it as deeply spiritual. It was
It
very
was
like
super.
values. It comes from their soul. And it just came up and like in terms of, community, like what's really important in life, right? They all had that kind of mentality of, okay, what's the point to all this?
100%.
And why am I doing
Yeah.
this? What else can I be
Yeah.
doing? So yeah, I mean, like, yeah, need more of those in the
It
world for
gets,
sure, and lift up those examples. But I think that, yeah, people need to realize that, yeah, we have this power, especially collectively. And I
oh, yeah.
think that's something, like we haven't maybe touched on a ton, but like this idea of community is like this can
Yes.
really be our bastion against a lot of this. Like it really can be
Hmm.
our way that we can have resilience, and stand against like the bad and stand for something better. Like it's hard to do that alone, but if you're with people like
Right.
in a community that you're all linking arms, you're all saying like we want a better way. I mean, it just makes it so much easier, right? Like when you have other
Hmm.
people who are like reinforcing your message, who are feeding positive energy. And I do think, we live in a world for a lot of reasons where people have become more lonely. We don't have this sense of community. And that
Hmm.
is like, I mean, ties back to spirituality for me of like, humans aren't meant to be like this. We're not meant to live in our little islands of houses and just like our own nuclear family, and that's all like who we care about. Like, we're not only spiritual creatures, but we're social creatures, and we need each other. We
Yes. Yeah.
literally, like, physically, emotionally, mentally, we need other people. And I think sometimes there's like shortcut ways to do that. I just saw this post on Instagram. It was like, okay, like feeling lonely, there's an app for that. It's like, no, just like
Oh
go outside
no.
and talk to someone. It's like, I think sometimes we like now are complicating the issue. Like, again, I think fundamentally humans, we know what we want, and we all actually, I think, want the same things. We want to feel like we belong, which I heard this great definition of belong is like this feeling of it's okay to be here. We all want to feel like it is okay for us to be here in whatever context that's in. So we all want to belong. We all want to be able to provide for ourselves and our families. We all want to have freedom to choose what we want. I think we all want health. So there's all of these things that like in community that all becomes stronger, and you can pull out these universal things. And yeah, I think there's a lot of forces that keep us apart, as well. I mean, even politically, but social media. I mean, like there's a whole list of things I think that are not working in the favor of community and connection.
Well, you look at Hal Tasig, the founder of UnTours. It's so beautiful what he did, and motivated by his own spiritual beliefs, especially his vow of poverty, and using all those profits for good, leading to then funding a company that funds other companies that do good.
Mm-hmm.
So that is deeply inspiring. I suspect that also created a beautiful community. Am I right? Or is there
Yes.
like a wonderful community amongst a lot of? Okay, that's incredible. So what has been the outcome of like all of the investment into these various other companies? In terms of, are they successful? Are they deeply profitable? Or are they supporting other companies? Like, what have been some of the positive outcomes of this community that you've all
Yeah.
created?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I mean, I think so. The companies we support, we call them our investees. Yeah, it's an incredible community of people, and so whenever we gather them, usually like it has to be virtual because they're all over the world. The way that they can inspire one another and make connections, and offer up thoughts and resources and advice. I think especially entrepreneurs can feel really lonely, and it feels like the things that you're facing are like a unique challenge, but you get with other entrepreneurs and you realize, oh, we're all worried about cash flow. We're all worried
Yes.
about the seasonality of tourism.
Uh-huh.
And so just that feeling of like solidarity and being seen and then being uplifted, like that is huge. When we gather our investees, we've been doing it quarterly. It's like the highlight for me. You just like leave those calls feeling just so energized, seeing, all of this positivity towards one another and encouragement. And yeah, I mean, we have a really low default rate. So I think, these
Yes, I
companies
was going to ask
are,
about that.
yeah, yeah, it's been under
Yeah.
1%, which is pretty incredible.
What? That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, they're good companies that,
Yeah.
really what we're providing catalytic capital, and we do take
Right.
risks, but like the whole point is to, companies that often for a variety of reasons have faced barriers to accessing friendly capital. just having a little bit to, a new initiative, or again, like to face a tough financial season, whatever the case may be, it's really just helping these companies like get past, okay, like, is there a barrier that will, like, with a bit of money, you can get past and continue operating your business profitably? And that's the role that we play. We don't write huge checks, honestly. And we support small businesses, but sometimes it frankly doesn't take a lot. Sometimes like you
Mm-hmm.
need, $5, 10, $25,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of our niche, and it really can go a
Mm-hmm.
long way. So there are,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of really cool examples. I was actually just sent earlier this week some photos. We made a loan to an ecotourism enterprise based in the Ecuadorian Amazon. That is like
Okay.
the coolest place ever. It's 100% indigenous owned, started by these
Wow.
communities that came together and said, we want to choose our path for economic development. They saw a lot of the extractive industries that were taking over in other parts of the country, and they banded together and said, we're going to start a sustainable tourism enterprise here in the Amazon. It's called Kapawi Eco Lodge. And has been very successful. We got in touch and we just financed the creation of a new family bungalow there. And these are all in solar power, and it's all made with like local and regenerative materials. It's incredible. And getting the pictures of, that new bungalow, and like, oh, you have a family coming
Oh,
in,
wow.
and,
Yeah.
all of this stuff. It's like, that's what you can do. Like when you have money to be able to support things like that, when your business,
Mm-hmm.
is able to be profitable and fund
Mm-hmm.
things like that. I mean, that is so, rewarding. That's, to me, what we need more of, right? And these businesses that like they might not have had access to that kind of funding if we didn't have a very specific focus on doing exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so a lot of amazing companies in our portfolio, and yeah, all of them, I think, um, have a lot of the same values, right? I really think we
Mm-hmm.
are part of one community even before like we know one another, right? It's like you meet these like
Absolutely.
entrepreneurs and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, we're on the same, like, yeah, you get it, yeah. And so those conversations are
100%.
so awesome, and then you're able to, just by writing a check, like truly being able to unleash amazing stuff. Like
And
our,
how many
I can't. Oh yeah, go ahead.
how many companies do you guys support currently? How many are in your portfolio and
There are
how
about
many have been?
60. Yeah,
60?
we
Has that
so
been since the beginning of UnTours or just currently?
No, so since the beginning of the foundation, we've done over 400 investments,
Okay.
over $11
Gotcha.
million. Right
Beautiful.
now, our fund is about 2 million, and there's about 60 active companies in the portfolio.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they're truly all
And
incredible. I mean, they're like the reason
yeah,
why like my work is so cool. I mean, it's just
yeah.
incredible to be able to be a piece of unlocking what they're doing.
And so the companies, like, does the foundation sustain itself in the sense of when the companies you invest in, when they search profit, they pay you back the loan with a little bit of interest as well. Has that been enough to keep you sustaining yourselves, or do you rely on the travel part of the business to continue sustaining yourselves?
We rely on the travel business, which since COVID has been pretty tough. So we also rely on philanthropy and donations and grants and partners because, yeah, frankly, we for our loans we do charge interest, but it's nominal. Our goal is not
Yeah,
to make money off of these, right? We consider anything we make an interest sort of like a loan loss reserve. If someone is not able to repay, that can cover some of those
gotcha.
costs. But it
Yeah.
absolutely does not cover our salaries because we're not in this, to generate that money for ourselves. So yeah, so we do have philanthropic partners, donors, we get grants, all of that stuff, sustains the good work. So yes, I mean, there's a role for business, and, as UnTours is profitable and all of that goes directly into the foundation, yeah,
And
like
towards
want
the
to see
travel part
that.
of it, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
and then how is the health of the UnTours, the travel part of his business?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, COVID was obviously really tough for the travel industry.
Yeah.
People not able to like move freely across borders. Also, the UnTours model has been more challenging because now you do have Airbnb and now you do have all of these platforms. You can book your
Mm,
own trips, and we offer independent supported travel is what we call it. So you can
yeah.
you book your accommodation, and you have some local support, but it's this mix of it's not all planned out, it's not like a whole itinerary of things. You can still be independent and choose the things you want to do, but there's someone there on the ground to welcome you, to bring you to a few experiences that we have curated. But yeah, that's the idea. but it's, I mean, frankly, there are so many ways to travel now, and people are more independent. And so it's tough. Like it is a tough place to be. Our
Yeah.
team, has grown, and we're growing into new destinations, which is really
Hmm.
exciting. I personally love that we're, beyond Europe, at this point. So yeah, and I
Hmm.
think there's always new horizons for us. Like as the world's first certified B Corporation, we're very aware that there's things that we can do, for example, to be more environmentally sustainable. Like travel is a hard industry to be sustainable in because you're sending people on
Hmm.
flights. Like
Hmm.
you're putting people on planes, which generates carbon and all of these things. So there's always new frontiers in terms of like the impact that we can create through the business. And obviously we want to grow the business and have more people traveling this way. But yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. And so the foundation has a fund called the Reset Tourism Fund that is, we're all about funding travel and tourism companies. And so that is like sort of like one of our focus areas is we fundamentally believe in travel as a force for good. I did
Yeah.
a presentation, I don't know, last summer, I think. The title of it was that it's not a coincidence the world's first B Corp is a travel company. Because I really do fundamentally believe like travel is a way to create connection, to create curiosity, to, create global community. It ties in a lot of things that
Oh
we've actually
yeah,
talked about. So
definitely.
yeah, so we're super proud of UnTours and what we've created and the fact that it is still existing. I mean,
Yeah.
50 years later, I think it's actually our 50th anniversary, this August. So
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool. Like there are challenges, and we really, are deeply invested in keeping it going because, to your point, this example of an entrepreneur who took a vow of poverty and then created a profitable business, it's like that has to live on. So it's like it's a
Yeah.
good burden that we bear, right? But that's his legacy. And so going to do everything we can to keep that alive. And the
Amazing.
foundation has fortunately been doing really well. Like we have some generous partners. The growth that we've been able to have just in terms of funding more companies, has been
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah.
Well, and the other thing about Haltastic, I just also just I wanted to connect one more little dot. We touched
Hmm.
on it, how the founders of B Lab, they knew and they were inspired by Haltastic and his business model. In a sense, does that make Haltastic kind of like the grandfather of B Corp? It does, doesn't it?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's literally the OG B Corp before B Corps were there, and he was like he inspired the movement. It's
I mean,
amazing.
I'll say this, without Hal, I'm not sure that we would have a B Corp movement.
Mm,
So like this
yeah,
one person who really like gave a lot of the impetus to make this happen has
so
led to
beautiful.
now a community of 10,000 businesses strong around the world that are
Wow.
redefining success in business. That is not about making money. And so I don't know. I guess one of my kind of final thoughts, and it's like I think about this often, is again, it's a cliche, but like one person truly has the power to make a difference, living
Mm,
authentically, living your values, being just an open-hearted person. You don't know what you
mhm.
can inspire. Like the ripples are real, which I think is one of the coolest things that you can kind of take from the story, right?
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Wow, Sarah, thank you. I think we can end with that the ripples are real.
Yeah, yeah,
And one person can do so much. I wonder if Hal knew that by his example, so much goodness would follow
yeah,
as a result. Think about all of the companies that UnTours, the travel company, by funding UnTours Foundation, all the investments you've made in those 400 companies. Those are real companies and real people who are positively impacted. And
yeah,
uh, and then yeah, like you just said, inspiring the B Corp movement.
yeah,
10,000 plus companies going strong. It's beautiful.
yeah. It's funny
Well
because I
done,
think
Hal, if
Hal,
you can hear us.
right, right. He was such a humble person that I'm like, would he like that we're like out here like talking about his name all the time? But you know what? It's for a good reason, and
It's
that's
fun.
not the point. We're not actually trying to idolize this person, right? But
Well,
yeah, I mean,
we had a funny thing happen when we created his video. Our team created like we edited it, and Sarah, you and I
mhm,
got into a bunch of calls and interviewed a bunch of previous winners of the Hal Tastic Award. Again, these incredible, inspiring leaders, incredible companies. But like in the final cut of the video, it wasn't the final cut. We caught it before we went to the final cut. I think his name might have been misspelled, and I thought,
mhm,
I feel like the real Hal Tastic, and he passed away. When was it? Like 2000.
2016.
2016. Okay. The real Hal Tastic, I swear, he was in there and he's like, no, 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 I don't need any credit.
Yeah.
And so just
Yeah.
even at the very end, and we fixed it just before it went live, but
We
I was like,
did.
this person was so humble that I don't think that that was an accident. It was very
Yeah.
sweet, but
Yeah.
it's incredible what he did. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah.
continuing on in his legacy and all the wonderful work you do with the UnTours Foundation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being on our show.
Thank you for having me. Always such a lovely conversation with you, Lena. So, yeah, really happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, hit the like button, or share an episode. And if you have any feedback, questions, or comments, or show ideas, you can email us directly at hello@allpurpose.io. Thank you once again for joining us. We'll see you next time.